And we are live for this week's Windy City Hockey Live. Yeah, so not a lot of news has dropped for the Hawks in the last week since going live last week when the Hawks hired Darren Pang, signed um Andreas Athanasiou to a contract, but Patrick Sharp leaving to go to Philadelphia was the main news of the week so far. There could be more stuff to come in the next coming days. Uh, the Golden Knights last night winning the Stanley Cup kind of sucks to see, but it happened. But that's how it goes. But don't forget, as we're on the road to hitting 1,000 subscribers, make sure to do it and help subscribe because just in 14 days from today, it will be draft day. Yes, draft day, meaning Connor Bedard officially a Chicago Blackhawk. Yes, I've been counting it down from pretty much the day they won the draft lottery. And well, we're here just 2 weeks away from draft day. And it's getting closer and closer each and every day. Chicago will be in Vegas shoes, just not this year. I don't think they will ever be in Vegas' shoes like this. Well, if you're meaning, I would say the Hawks are going to try and build to try and get back to that. Multiple. Hearing the Kraken will wear ice blue for their Winter Classic jersey, and Vegas will wear a cream color. Not sure what they will be to come up with. What I'm going to think is Seattle will do a blue version of a Seattle Metropolitan jersey, and Vegas comes up with something completely new that looks like a throwback with it being a cream jersey. That's my guess. But I don't think we'll be live for an hour today, guys. I think we'll just do a 30-minute live stream. So just because there wasn't a lot to talk about for the Hawks, but that's how it is in the off season. So how's your guys' day been today? Let me remind the guys in Discord that we are live. I would be okay if the Hawks pick up, do draft Andrew Crystal. If they can, that would be awesome because that means Connor Bedard gets his best friend growing up, um, on the same team. This week, watch the NBA final and a Stanley Cup final this week. Yeah, they both ended 24 hours apart from each other. I didn't watch the NBA final because I really don't care about watching basketball. Hey, Salty. How are you doing? What's your guys' thoughts on how the Stanley Cup champion hats looked last night? Because, oof, not a single. Fanatics can't produce anything nice. All they care about is stealing money from consumers. Who would you like the Chicago to draft at 19 and the second round? The second round is harder to say because I could see the Hawks moving some of their picks around because they have a lot of early second rounders. If they stay at 19 and if he's still there, I would say Andrew Crystal if they to draft because the chemistry with him and Connor Bedard kind of makes sense. At least it's better than the last year's one was terrible, but I mean, Fanatics still can't design a good hat. There hasn't been a good Stanley Cup hat since this one. The 2015 hat, in my opinion, the best looking Stanley Cup champion hat designed. Because look at the underbill. That's a good hat. Would you consider getting big guy to protect Bedard? Most likely. Yeah, I kind of think they will do that this in free agency. And a player I could see them trying to acquire, he just won his second Stanley Cup less than 24 hours ago, and I can see them trying to go after Ivan Barbashev from Vegas, who is a free agent, and I think that could be a smart move because he's a protector on the ice. But yeah, I still say 2015 Stanley Cup hat, the best Stanley Cup hat ever made. Yeah, I would say so. The only thing I ask of Fanatics is please do not do a toilet seat for the Hawks. Yeah, it will most likely the jersey will stay the same for the first 2 years of Fanatics, and Fanatics will bring in their own template to the jerseys when they take over. Could Chelios be in the booth? I could see Chris Chelios take up a job in the Blackhawks as a Blackhawk analyst, but I don't know. It's going to be difficult to say if Chelly wants to do it. I know his daughter does it for the Hawks, but it's a. I don't know if Chelly wants to be like in the booth. I still don't think the draft hats this year's are good. Let me put my Stanley Cup hat back where I have them. Yeah, I really am not a fan of the draft hat this year. Normally, I buy the draft hat. This year, I most likely won't. I just don't think it's a good hat. Oh yeah, Fanatics is just a terrible company. They don't care about anything that they produce. At least We could all say if you get a Connor Bedard jersey, it can be a Adidas one because his rookie jersey will be in or would be in Adidas. Yeah, they do need a third guy. It's going to be difficult to see who they consider. I've been thinking maybe they try and hire former Blackhawk grinder and enforcer, the Grim Reaper, and Stu Grimson. Grimson's really good on NHL Network, and I would enjoy having Grimson on the Hawks broadcasts. That's going to be a hard one to get, Salty. Trust me, I would be trying the same thing. Those Bedard rookie jerseys. Oh yeah, Bedard jerseys will most likely be the top selling jersey in the NHL next season. I personally think Stu Grimson would be a cool idea for the Hawks to bring back and have him be an analyst because he's really good at it on NHL Network. Yeah, I have not ordered or done a pre-order on a Bedard jersey yet, but once they officially draft him and he chooses if he's going to wear number 98, I will then buy a Bedard jersey. I would like Reichel and Bedard on the same line with someone like maybe a Taylor Radish on the other wing. But who knows? I think they might try and put Reichel on a line with Athanasiou because they really worked out well when they were on the same team last year. So I think Reichel with Athanasiou could stay together, but who knows? The lines are going to be kind of mismatch all year. It's going to be a fun team to watch because it's going to be a young, up and coming roster, but it's still not going to be the greatest team in the NHL. I wish the broadcast team of Ryman, Murray, and Payne. Is Korchinski going to get a call up? Here's my prediction with Kevin Korchinski. Um, I don't think he's going to stay up in the Blackhawks this year. I personally think what happens is the Hawks give Korchinski a 9-game tryout so they don't burn a year of his entry level deal. And once he does 9 games, they send him back to the Seattle Kraken and he plays in another year in juniors. If that stupid CHL rule wasn't in place, I would personally have Korchinski in the AHL with the Rockford Ice Hogs. Which Bedard jersey would you go with? Home red or road white or something else? It will likely be a red jersey, maybe a white jersey. I don't know yet. Saw the interviews of Bedard and he acted very professional and his work ethic is great. Yeah, Bedard Bedard's interviews were excellent. He's very poised when it comes to not saying he's going to the Blackhawks, even though he knows he's going to be the first overall pick. He doesn't want to spoil it right now. I expect Bedard to be the next captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, but not next season. Seattle somehow let Wright in the AHL. The reason they were able to send Shane Wright to the AHL was for a conditioning stint because he didn't play for 2 weeks at that point. You can send a player down to the AHL for a conditioning stint. They could play a few games down there, but they would have to call them up. But what Seattle did was called him up and then let him play in the World Juniors, and then sent him to the um, OHL. Hey Jake, how are you? But yeah, I really hate the CHL rule of players not being able to get sent down to the AHL when the AHL is a better development for a player in professional hockey. The CHL, yes, it's a great developmental league, but it's if your player doesn't is in it and you don't think they are actually needing to be there to develop more, it's harder for the player to actually fully find that true development of their game because in the AHL they can develop more into a professional men's league. That's how the AHL set up. Okay. The WHL is great for development, but the thing is, it's a development for teenagers. Yes, Korchinski's still going to be 18 next year, but um he is I personally think he needs to be playing up with men, but I don't think he's going to be eligible. I don't think he would be ready to be in the NHL next season. Players like Isaac Phillips, should have been sent down to the CHL after being drafted, but he was able to break that rule because at the time when Isaac Phillips was able to be sent to the AHL, the CHL had a basically canceled that rule out for a season for COVID, and Phillips has strived well in the AHL, and I think he might be in the NHL full time next year. I do believe tomorrow is the opening for buyout period in the NHL. So if that is the case, I could see a potential of a buyout being called on the Blackhawks side of the salary cap. And if they do it, I would honestly not be surprised. And the player I think they could buy out is potentially Nikita not Zadorov. Oh my god. Well, I do think the Hawks could do a buyout tomorrow. I believe the buyout period does open up tomorrow. Who is the number one free agent this season, would you say? Good question there, Jake, because this free agency class is weak. Um, but yeah, I really would. If he was healthy, I would say it was Patrick Kane, but he is not healthy. It's an interesting free agent class. It's a weak class. But the player I'm trying to say who I could see get bought out is Nikita Zaitsev. Pay him for 2 years for doing nothing is a possibility. Between Phillips and Vlasic, who would you prefer? Who? Who would I prefer between the two? Ooh, I like both of them. That's a tough question there, Brandon. I I need to come back to that question. Feels like a depth free agent class versus a number team changer class. Yeah, I would agree there. A player I personally would love to see get signed by the Hawks is a player like Max Domi. Bring him back to the Chicago. He's really worked well in the Blackhawks system. And another player I would be okay with them trying to sign is Ivan Barbashev, which is weird to say because he was a former Blue. Yeah, I agree. Both of them do deserve a roster spot next year. I'm Brandon. So to answer your question about Phillips or Vlasic, I would probably take Vlasic. But the thing is, I really am a fan of Isaac Phillips. But I would take Alex Vlasic. Who takes goaltending spot beside? It will be Arvid Soderblom. Arvid Soderblom with Peter Mrazek going as a 1A, 1B situation next season. As much as I would have liked to see Alex Stalock to return, but it's not going to happen. So I would say it's going to be Arvid Soderblom and Peter Mrazek. So, guys, don't forget, help this channel reach 1,000 subscribers by draft day, as we are currently 39 subscribers away from hitting that ultimate goal. I've been doing this channel since 2018 on July 12th. It's almost a month away till we hit, just under a month away till we hit the 5-year anniversary of the channel. So if we can't hit the 1,000 subscribers on by draft day, let's try and reach it by the 5th anniversary of this channel. So, guys, if you have any more questions or whatever you want to talk about, just feel free to let the questions go. Or I got an idea. If you would like to join the live stream for a bit, let's do it. I'm going to post a link for you guys to be able to join in on the live stream to talk for a little bit. So there's the link if you would like to join the live stream. What do you think Connor Hellebuck's wanting out of? What do you think of Connor Hellebuck wanting out of Winnipeg? Well, Winnipeg, I think there's a lot of problems with that organization. That locker room seems very cancerous, when it comes to how the players are. So it doesn't surprise me Hellebuck wants out. And I could see him wanting to actually come back down to the States where he's from. He might be tired of playing up in Canada. I see Tyler Bertuzzi's name on the free agent list, and I think he'd be a good 1-year deal. I really am. I personally would not touch Tyler Bertuzzi at all. I don't like Bertuzzi's game, and I don't think it fits the Hawks. So I personally would not touch Tyler Bertuzzi. Yes, he's one of the better free agents this year, but I just don't trust the guy. When Steve Yzerman is willing to deal you at the trade deadline and your team was actually very competitive by the deadline, that means you're a player that is not viewed upon as a player a team would really want to keep around. So I really personally would not want to sign Tyler Bertuzzi to Chicago. A player that comes to mind that I could see maybe getting signed by the Hawks as a free agent right now, I could see Alex Galorin. Are there any massive trades that could happen? And for the Blackhawks stake, Jake, let me just verify that if that's what you're trying to ask. But if you're not trying to ask through the Blackhawks state of mind, I could see a couple big trades happening outside of the Blackhawks, and I could see the Pittsburgh Penguins trying to make a big splash on Connor Hellebuck from Winnipeg just because they do want to. It sounds like they do want to upgrade their goaltending, and Hellebuck being one of the better goalies in the NHL. Pittsburgh trying to do anything to save face and keep trying to go back to the playoffs. I could see them trying to acquire a player like Connor Hellebuck. Vancouver, I could see them blowing up moving out some of the players due to the salary cap purposes, like maybe a Brock Besser to Chicago. Yes, I personally would love to see Brock Besser come to the Blackhawks. Maybe the Rangers try and blow up their core a little bit and try to fix that situation up because I don't think their roster is good enough to make a run for a playoff, like run for a cup, how it's structured. Oh, it's Jake. Let me bring him in.
Howdy.
What's up, Jake?
Oh, not much. But I do have to say, though, if Brock Besser does go anywhere outside of Vancouver, bring him home, damn it. Bring him home.
Can Minnesota fit him underneath the salary cap?
I mean, it would take a little bit of finagling and finessing and stuff like that, probably, but I mean, I would not be opposed to it just because another young key piece that we could build for the future here because the Wild, in my opinion, are kind of in the, dare I say, identity crisis. trying to figure
Yeah,
out who they want to be, because I don't know how much longer they can do the big brute physical force, because
yeah.
every time they do, I mean, during the regular season, it's cool, it's fine, gritty grind. But the problem is, once you hit the playoffs, it's like by the end of like the first series, just I'm pretty sure the Ice Hogs could beat the Wild, or the Iowa Wild could beat the Wild, just because they're so beaten up, injured, and just
Aren't they one of the
yeah.
older rosters in the Central Division?
That I don't know. Like I say, you know a lot more about that than I would probably, because I'm not just like an NHL guy. I also follow the NFL and stuff
Yeah.
like that too. So I have way too much going on, trying to just focus in on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I wouldn't doubt it. At the very least, we have probably some of the most actual. I'm kind of curious to see where we're at as far as like the overall cap issues, and like where we are in the in the league as far as cap, because honestly, I don't think we're as bad as a lot of people think we are. It's just until the Parise and Suter buyouts are officially off the books, we
And
really,
that's for another how many years?
I think after next season is
Here,
when we're officially done.
I have the Wild salary cap on my phone right now. So as of right now, they have $9 million in salary cap space. The Parise and Suter contracts for buyout come to end.
I want to say 24-25 is the first season we're done with them. If not 25-26.
No, 28-29. That's where it's looking on cap friendly.
Well, I think let me rephrase that. The cap hell.
Oh yeah, the cap hell ends in 24-25. So next season's the last of the hell part, because afterwards it's $835,000 for
And yeah, that's what I meant. Like the overall actual hell period.
yeah.
Where we're talking 14, 15 mil off the board to two players and all that stuff. But again, in my opinion, that was a move that had to have been made at the time. Granted, hindsight being 2020, I'm pretty sure Parise would have been better to keep than Suter, because, well, Ryan Suter is a very kind of like what you're talking about with the Jets having a toxic locker room environment.
Yeah.
Suter was bordering on that for the Wild, and hell, even the Predators back in the day too. Like, if you ever have a chance, just kind of look that up. I know on YouTube there's a couple videos that kind of talk about it. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Alyssa Hope at all.
I know.
I did a video about a year ago talking about that.
Yep.
So
I know what video you're talking about.
So yeah, like I say, and then again, with Minnesota, it's either you're always going to have half the fan base that hates the move, and you're always going to have half the fan base that loves the move. And no matter what you do, you can never get both sides together and stuff like that. So, but again, I'm on the camp of that should have been done, because now we can actually start breaking into our prospect pool, into our youth and stuff like that, and actually try to potentially build to push forward.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why also, too, I think Guerin did get rid of those guys, too, because we're still kind of, I wouldn't say we're in a transitional phase, but we're kind of at that phase where if we can keep,
they're in a retool phase.
Yeah, retool, not rebuild. Basically, try to get younger while still staying competitive, because, I mean, we're so competitive, It's not like one of those situations where it's just like, yep, the writing's on the wall, all of our key players are going to be gone or over the age of 35, this, that, and the other thing, kind of like with Chicago, you guys had to tear it all down and basically rebuild it from the studs.
Yeah.
Which, let's just say Pittsburgh and Washington are going to be experiencing that sooner rather than later.
Yes. I think Pittsburgh's doing the wrong thing in how they're viewing things, because they just missed the playoffs for the first time since 2006, I want to say.
Yeah, first time in 16 years. So
yeah. So, Pittsburgh has the same mindset of how Stan Bowman ran things by let's try and keep the gang back to keep them together and trying to push for a playoff spot rather than
Basically, trying to plug holes versus rebuilding an entire new ship for the future.
yep, they don't have the prospects, they don't have the draft capital to fix their situation. Pittsburgh's going to be in a terrible position next. I would say in a far worse position than next year than they were this year.
I could believe it too, especially because the East is now starting to wake up because Detroit's waking up. Florida's
Yep,
still a beast in the East now. Let's see.
Buffalo.
Buffalo is right there too. I could see Ottawa continuing to get better now, especially that they have new ownership and some stability.
Yep,
Well, I mean, there's going to be plenty of these younger teams that are now finally seeing the fruits of their rebuilds and stuff like that. So the East is not going to be easy. And
oh yeah.
again, Boston too. Like, let's think about that for a second here too. Boston, they could potentially be on a down.
Boston could be one of the worst teams in the NHL easily next year.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be fair though, everyone thought that this year, and they became literally the best regular season team of all time. So the key for me is going to be: do they have enough young guys that they could keep pulling in? Or are they doing the same thing that all the big name markets do, where they try to keep plugging and plugging and plugging, pushing versus getting like the depth down below and like the AHL levels to push forward? Because that's one thing that with the Wild that really screwed us over during the Fletcher and Fenton era.
Yeah.
Because they're trying too hard to keep pushing forward versus actually, pushing for a, future contending team, like a long-term contender, like a 5-6 seasons of, being at the top of whatever division. But yeah, it's just, so it's going to be curious to see, because a lot of the big powerhouses are probably going to be starting to fall off, and a lot of the younger teams are now going to start rising from the ashes, if you may say.
Yeah. That's all good, Ryan. I understand being late to the stream. That's all perfectly fine. But yeah, Boston, they have the worst ranked prospect core in the entire NHL.
I wonder why.
And they don't even have first round picks. Their next first round pick isn't for another 3 years.
Oof, Maron. Yikes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this year literally, well, this year and or possibly next year is probably going to be it for them and all that stuff. But then again, I don't know, they could somehow pull them rabbit out of their hind end and somehow manage to get a lot of, or at the very least, trade for like some younger unknowns to develop them to potentially take over the reins too. Because, well, I mean, it is Boston. When you think of like hockey markets, Boston, Chicago, Minnesota, Detroit, Toronto, places like that, they'll always find a way to get pieces to, build and push forward. It's just going to be a matter of how do they do that, or if you're Boston, do you just say screw it, tear it all down, keep and just try to rebuild and gather up draft picks and stuff like that? Because it's going to be an interesting time for like I say, Boston, Washington, and Pittsburgh over the next, I'd venture to say, 3 to 4 seasons.
Yeah. Washington, they still have enough prospects I trust in that can kind of come into that team to retool it fast enough to try and compete again. This year, I felt like the injuries really caught up with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see Washington still find the way back to the playoffs next year.
Oh, I can too.
But I just think Washington needs some younger players to just insert into the team, which the thing going for Washington, they're able to draft. They've kept their draft picks to build their prospect pool.
Yeah, because that's, now they actually mention it, stuff like that too, because Hershey is their AHL affiliate, right?
Yep.
And they're in the Calder Cup final.
Yes, I believe they're currently losing in the Calder Cup.
I think they're down 2-0.
Yeah.
At least last I heard, because I know the hockey guy kind of mentioned something about that, but
Yeah.
to Coachella Valley, ironically enough.
Yeah, expansion team for this year.
Mm-hmm. And the Seattle Kraken AHL affiliates.
Yep.
But anyway, so yeah, I mean, and plus, let's be honest here. Alex Ovechkin will walk away from the Capitals when Alex Ovechkin's ready to walk away from the Capitals. I mean, the
Yeah.
Capitals are just basically, at this point, they're just waiting for him to get the record and then go from there.
It's most likely what happens is Ovechkin when he breaks Gretzky's record, because at this point in time, I don't think he's not going to break it. I think
I mean,
he's
he had 43 goals this year in like
yeah.
50 games, and he's only like, what, 60 or 70 goals away
He
now?
just has to score 20 goals for the next 3 years, which for Ovechkin's case, that's highly possible.
Mm-hmm. If he could stay healthy, and, if Washington can keep him, you know, basically, if they can keep him healthy, keep him in a role that works for him and the team.
Yep.
Because I mean, he still has arguably one of the most wicked wrist like slap shots in the entire league.
Oh
I
yeah, I
mean,
would not want to be shot. I would not want to be blocking that shot.
oh no, like I say, I mean, he can literally snipe that thing top corner, even if your glove is like extended up. He manages to find like right in between two fingers to pop it into the top of the goal. I mean, the guy has always been known for his sniping abilities and stuff like that. And arguably, if there weren't a couple of big road bumps, like the lockout year and stuff like that, he already could be.
Oh yeah.
He already could have the record easily, in my opinion.
Yeah, Slayer. He is in his late 30s, but the guy can still score. That's the thing with Ovechkin.
Yeah, you're not going to ask him to go out there and play like Marcus Foligno style or Ryan Reeves style of hockey. He's primarily just kind of out there to,
Snipe power
yeah,
play goals.
snipe, score, and, be the captain on the bench trying to get everybody fired up and stuff like that. And they have plenty of leaders on that team still, like Oshie. Even though it'll be interesting to see what they do with Kuznetsov, because I've been hearing his name in like potential trade
I
rumors.
could see them move Kuznetsov to try and bring in younger talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be a smart move for Washington to do so. And a player I kind of see them drafting if he's at the position in the first round where they're at. I believe they're drafting 10th overall.
Could be. I haven't had a chance to look at the updated the updated
Yeah.
roster.
I believe they're somewhere around 10th overall.
Do you know where the
It,
Wild are drafting? I think we're like 22,
let me
23.
pull it here. Let me pull up the draft order right now.
Okay, because I think we're like 22 or 23, I'm guessing.
So, the first round for this year's entry draft, the Hawks at first, Ducks at second, Blue Jackets at third, San Jose at fourth, Montreal at fifth, Arizona sixth, Philadelphia seventh, Washington at eighth, Detroit at ninth, St. Louis at 10th, Vancouver at 11th, Arizona at 12th, Buffalo at 13, Pittsburgh at 14, the Predators at 15, Calgary at 16, the Red Wings at 17. That was the New York Islanders pick that was traded for Brock Bess. No, not Brock Besser. Bo Horvat to Vancouver. Vancouver traded that pick to Detroit. Winnipeg at 18th. The Hawks at 19th via Tampa Bay. The Kraken at 20th. Minnesota is drafting 21st. Philadelphia is at 22nd. The Rangers at 23rd. Predators at 24th. St. Louis at 25th. San Jose at 26th. Colorado at 27th. The Maple Leafs at 28th. St. Louis at 29th, and Carolina at 30th. Then you will have Vegas at 31st and Montreal at 32nd.
Alrighty. So, like I say, I really haven't had a chance to look at a lot of the prospects, even though I have heard that in 2023, this might be one of the more loaded drafts from just top to bottom, especially the top 10.
You could actually come out with a high end prospect in the top like 20 picks.
And that's one thing I will say with the Wild. They have been known to draft pretty well. Like
Mm-hmm.
even, well, case in point, Kirill Kaprizov, arguably one of the best players in the entire league now, was a 5th-round pick, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like one of those things where if you can find those diamond in the roughs, or even if you can find a really talented player who might have a little bit of issues, whether it be, on the ice, off the ice, or just height-wise, weight-wise, whatever the case might be, and, you can develop them a few years while still having a team that competes. I mean, who knows?
Want me to show you who's projected to go to Minnesota for you?
Sure.
Okay. I've been looking into it because with the Hawks having so many picks, I've been looking into this stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, about to say, it's just like, yeah, well, you could all trade up for the first overall pick. Oh, wait a minute.
We came up with the golden goose. So a lot of places do project Samuel Hornzik. I believe I'm pronouncing his name right. He's a Slovakian center who's 6'4" at 185.
Honestly, I would like that because we could use some height and we could use some girth on the center position. Because like I say, I love Joel Eriksson Ek, but when he literally has to be your bruiser at the center position, when he's more of a facilitator and like getting into the greasy areas. And like I say, I love Hartman, but again, he's more of an agitator, not really a true center, in my opinion.
Well, I know how Hartman is. He played for the Hawks for a long
I know
enough.
that was one of the moves that you said you hated when that happened. Like, absolutely hated it.
That stick right there is actually Hartman's stick.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, for me, priority number one for the Minnesota Wild, Gustafsson. Get him under contract for at least a couple more years here.
I kind of agree there.
And hope that we can, or depending on like what another team offer sheets him, like let's say, I mean, let's be honest here. If someone wants to go out and pay him like $15 million a year, here, take him. We'll take the 3 first-round picks. Thank you very much. But it's like one of those things where if we can get him in at a decent rate, like maybe 4, 5, like 3 to 5 million a year, give or take. Then I'd say you do it all day, every day. Even if you have to move like 1 or 2 players, it wouldn't be the end of the world because, in my opinion, if I'm the Wild, if I'm Guerin, if I'm Everson, we got to dip into Iowa and see what we have.
Oh, yeah.
And go from there. Because even if Rossi doesn't turn out to be the guy we think he is, if we can figure that out now and get a high pick for him, and then he could go to someone who could utilize him a little bit more.
Yep.
Then you'd be stupid not to. Because, well, let's be honest here, there are a couple of Islanders fans who are like, would you like Noah Dobson for freaking Rossi and like Addison and those guys? And I'm like, I mean, he asked me this probably like 10 different times over the course of the season. And I'm like, I don't know what your obsession is with getting rid of Dobson, but the thing is, I don't know with Rossi yet. I mean, heck, I don't even really know with Addison because it just sounds like with Kalen Addison, it sounds like his issue is he's a young male. He likes to go out and kind of hang out and just, do stuff kind like that. Now, I don't know if there's more behind the scenes. I don't know if there's, character issues there per se or whatnot, but It'll be interesting to see.
Do you think Minnesota is stunting Rossi's development?
Very easily could be yes. And
Because the games I've watched him in the AHL this year, he has not looked good.
well, the game, which is ironic because the games I've heard, well, that's actually a funny thing you say that because literally they got rid of the Iowa Wild coaching staff this year because Garen
Yeah.
said they weren't being developed enough.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, I'm pretty sure that Trevor and I made a video on that on Trevor's channel talking about that stuff too. And it's just like, it's, I mean, it's the truth though, because it's like, granted, I will say Rossi might be a little bit underdeveloping just because remember, during the COVID year and that stuff, when he first came to North America, he was out for damn near a full season just due to that. Like, it was a nasty illness. And I think since, and then pair that up with the fact that they literally threw him right up here in Minnesota, made him like the guy, and he clearly didn't look like he was ready to be that guy yet. I don't know. Like I say, in Evison, I don't know if it's Evison, I don't know if it's Garen, I don't know if it's a combo of the two, but for some reason they I don't know if they don't like to develop their players. I don't know if they don't like to play the young guys just to play them or not, but it always seems like Evison prefers to go with guys like John Merrill over Kalen Addison or something along those lines where, don't get me wrong, I love me Merrill. I love guys like that too, but it's just like more often than not, he was tripping over his own ice skates, and before you know it, they had a fast break coming the other freaking way.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I see that so many times here, and I'm like, well, we have a lot, we have a couple of young defensemen sitting on the bench. Why not try them out?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can't be any worse than seeing your veterans bumbling and stumbling over themselves like a freaking Three Stooges routine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I don't know. And then of course too with like the goaltending and stuff like that. That's why, in my opinion, Gustafsson is priority number one, is because we still have Wallstead down in the minors. I mean, he's like 18, 19, but from everything I've heard, seen, and all that stuff, it sounds like he's pretty much going to be the real deal. It's just
he's a good goalie. So I was really hoping the Hawks would have drafted him. But for Ryan, the question about the hot dog man coming to Chicago.
Philip J. Kessel, 3-time Stanley Cup champion. Yes. How the heck does this guy do it? Like, I mean, his freaking like routine is like a frat party, and he goes out there and is the Iron Man of the NHL, has 3 Stanley Cups. Like, I mean, the dude's a borderline Hall of Famer.
Honestly, at this point, I think he is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
So, yeah, I mean, I love that.
I would say this. Last night with his quote basically telling Toronto media to kiss his ass.
Well, can you blame them, though? Like, can you blame him, though? He was literally, that was his prime career was up in Toronto during arguably the worst Toronto teams of all time. And him getting, and Toronto media. Oh, yeah. Holy crap. I mean, I can't blame him. I can't blame him. Yeah, exactly. I can't blame him at all.
Ryan, I would love to see Phil Kessel come to the Blackhawks. I was wanting him to come to the Blackhawks last year. I personally don't think it will happen. I could realistically see Kessel try and go to a team that he knows that could win a cup again. At this point in his career, I think Kessel is just going to try and find a chance to win the cup and tell Toronto media to kiss his ass. Because what he said last night.
Oh, that was hilarious.
I would if I could find the quote, because it was what he said basically. What I basically was saying, he basically told the Toronto media to almost screw off.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, too, a lot of the Leafs fans actually loved Kessel. It was media and stuff like that, and during their darkest times and stuff like that, and again, when you're up in media like that, or when you're up against, like, that type of media where it's literally like dog eat dog, cutthroat, Shark Tank, whatever analogy you want to use there. It's like I could see why you want to get the hell out of there as soon as you can.
Yeah. So here's what Phil Kessel said last night. Take me back. Phil Kessel takes me back to my Toronto days. You guys said I couldn't win, and now I'm a 3-time champ. Remember that.
Oh, he even gave him the middle finger there, dude.
Yeah, he basically told them, screw off at that point.
The double bird and out the door we go. Yeah, like that was that was about as blunt as you can get right there.
Yeah. Man, I love Phil Kessel. I would love to see him come to Chicago, but I just realistically don't think he fits into the Blackhawks system.
Yeah, and like
At this point, he is old and slow. That's why he didn't play any. He played only 4 playoff games in the first round of the playoffs this year. Granted, he still is the Iron Man. The Iron Man record doesn't go into the playoffs. It's only for regular season play. So he still is the NHL Iron Man. I would love to see him come to Chicago. He's only 8 points away from his 1,000th in the NHL. Let him score. If he came to Chicago, put him on a line with Bedard. Bedard sets him up for 8 points, and there we go. We have a celebration for.
You have to do that when you guys play Toronto, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In Toronto,
that would make you even better.
In Toronto too, nonetheless. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I would laugh the day Phil Kessel hits his 1,000th, and if it is in Toronto, I will laugh because, man.
Heck, I will go grab my Kessel jersey and throw it on right then and there. I have a Coyotes one that I got from Dick's Sporting Goods for like $40.
Oh,
I would gladly wear that.
That's a player I would not mind getting a jersey for. But the thing is, I've never liked many of the teams he's played for. Like, he played for Boston. He's played for Toronto. He's played for Pittsburgh. He played for Arizona. Arizona is a little bit I'm okay with, but that organization needs to figure something out. Yeah. And then Vegas, I've never cared for Vegas when they entered the league.
Well, for me, I kind of liked Vegas for a little bit, but then like the whole thing with Fleury and this and that, and then like the fan bases and stuff like that being like, well, it was a long, hard 6 years. And meanwhile, there's fan bases like me who are sitting there going,
yeah.
So it's more of a fan base thing than an actual team because I love the team. I mean, Marchessault, Carlson, guys like that. I mean, the band of misfits, basically. And they played like it too. I mean, they were out for blood literally the whole time since they've been in the league, basically proving to themselves that, hey, look, I can do this. And I bet for Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault, I bet it felt just a little bit sweeter knowing that you beat the Florida Panthers in the finals.
Oh, yeah.
A team that gave up on you before you really even had a chance to show them what you could do.
Yep. Okay, how gaudy do you think their Stanley Cup banner is going to be next year?
If it's not full glitter and golden, then I don't want to see it.
Okay.
If it's not like they're shiny jerseys, then they're doing it wrong.
And let's see. How fast do you give them to damaging the Stanley Cup because it's Vegas? They're going to probably damage it.
Oh hell, it'd be a miracle if it could make it out of the city initially.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Sin City for a reason, buddy. I mean,
yeah.
But I will say, though, I do give credit where credit's due. Vegas is some passionate fans. Like, they are hard with the teams and stuff like that. So I do give them credit there. Even though, please, for the love of God, can we make the gold jerseys the thirds again instead of the full-time home?
Those gold jerseys are terrible, but now they just won the cup in it. It's not going to change.
No, probably not. Which sucks, too, because pretty much almost all of their alternates have been hits. Like the
Oh,
reverse retros have been like both of them were like arguably the best selling reverse retros of their eras.
yeah, I really liked the reverse retro from this year, and I thought the first one was good. The collar on that first one was not that good looking because it kind of had that weird stop in the middle, making it look like a golden toilet seat. So I was like, that collar sucks, but the jersey's a good jersey.
Mm-hmm. And and for me, the thing that I loved with their other reverse retro, the reverse retro 2.0,
Oh yeah,
glow in the dark.
that jersey's cool. I expect them to keep it as their third next year.
I wouldn't mind that. Even though, like I say, though, I don't know. I'm one of the few ones that really liked their gray jerseys because it was
I
like,
I liked the gray one. It was unique. No one uses a gray base.
and it was subtle yet still flashy, because they still had the gold flecks and stuff
Yep.
like that. But with the gold and like with the freaking shiny domes and the gold jerseys, it's like I almost freaking need sunglasses just to watch a Golden Knights game.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
When are you gonna get a Bedard jersey? When am I going to get a Bedard jersey?
Here, I'll answer this one. Probably wait until you know he's officially going to be a Blackhawk.
That's basically what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The Blackhawk store actually here. Let me just do this.
Yeah, I've been on eBay and stuff like that. I'm like, not gonna lie, as a Wild fan, it'd be hilarious to see all these Blackhawks fans blowing like $500 on custom Bedard jerseys before Bedard is officially a Blackhawk, because you never know. I mean, hell, I think everyone last year thought Montreal was gonna go get who was it?
Right?
Yeah, and then end up going with Slavkovsky. Or was it Slavkovsky?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it was Slavkovsky.
So it's one of those things where it's like, for me as a jersey collector and stuff like that, I usually try to wait until I know the player's either going to be around for a while or is, like in your case, a number one overall pick and stuff like that, because I don't want to drop $250 on, a custom jersey and the player never even signs with the team or whatnot. Well, see, that makes sense.
So,
because it's not Connor Bedard. It just
the
says
Hawks right now. The Hawks are doing pre-orders for whoever they take for first overall. I can do it, but I'm going to just wait until after the draft, and when Bedard chooses number 98. He's going to choose number 98. When he chooses his number, and that's when I will get when I will order a Connor Bedard jersey.
Now the real question is going to be home or road.
That's the thing. I personally would think. I might go a road jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking I might go road because so many people are getting home Bedard jerseys. I have not seen anyone who's gotten a road Bedard jersey yet.
True. Plus, too, I'm curious to see what the thing too, like, kind of just spitballing like NHL topics, not necessarily Blackhawks topics. I'd be curious to see once Fanatics takes over, like if they'll make the road whites more, available,
relatively available,
or if it's just going to be like the Adidas way, where it was like, yeah, if you go through like your team store or this or that, or if you find like strays on eBay or something like that, but it's just like, I don't know. I like the white jerseys, even though I know they stain like a mother lover and all that stuff. But it's just like,
keep an eye out for my next video. I am ranking all 32 road jerseys from this year.
Nice.
I do have rules in place, so it would be interesting where I have some teams.
Yeah, because that's one thing I've noticed with you too. Like when you did a reverse retro 2.0, I was just looking at that like, wow. Okay, I can see that. You know,
Hmm. I
'cause
have rules in place.
because I think like which is kind of like crazy too. What like going back to that video, the 2.0, because you definitely had the Blackhawks a lot higher than I think 98% of everyone else did, but you still didn't have them really that high,
Yeah.
which just kind of goes to show that it's not just speaking from a Blackhawks fan, but it's speaking from a Jersey fan and like just an overall design
Hmm.
aspect of things.
When I did the Reverse Retro 2.0 video, I waited until every team wore the jersey on ice and wore them for a couple of times to get my full opinion on how I thought of the jersey. That's why I waited until after the jerseys were released to do that video. I
Make
waited a couple months after they were wearing the jerseys on ice because I wanted to see how how all jerseys looked on ice and how I would feel how it looked just as a full uniform. And when I was watching the Hawks wearing the jersey, it started growing on me. But not originally, I would have said this is the um probably second worst reverse retro in the NHL. But I had it ranked higher because it grew on me.
I will say though, the Chicago Blackhawks one was a lot better than the Detroit one, in my opinion, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not even an argument. Just because the Detroit one, I know what they were trying to do. Honestly, what they should have done, in my opinion, was taken like what they did with the 1.0, but made it into like a black jersey with the red spoke. Give
Yeah.
us a black jersey with the red spoke. Give us the black jersey with the red
Okay.
spoke as an alternate. Like, come on, dude. Like, this is what, because honestly, that would have probably propelled them into like a top 10 for me,
Yeah.
just because it's
Ryan,
different.
reverse retro is actually discontinued. There aren't going to be any more reverse retros.
And in my opinion, for the better, because it, we don't want to keep beating a dead horse,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And
My
that's
prediction is when Fanatics takes over and they have their own third jersey program, as much as I hate to say it, I think they're going to do what the MLB and the NFL, no, not, and the NBA does with the City Connect style jerseys.
yeah.
I just, for the love of me, do not do a Chicago flag themed Chicago Blackhawks jersey. I do not want. I do not want a blue Blackhawk jersey.
You want to know what's funny is I actually have I have a Zach Levine Chicago Bulls, like the city jersey and the shorts from I think 2020, like in that exact colorway. Just because for some reason I loved that colorway. Like for me, that's like, I know in Chicago it's like a taboo subject or like a taboo thing, but obviously it must not have been that taboo. I mean, they all sold out, so it's like one
Yeah.
of those things.
Uh, the Fanatic Steel is 10 years long, which way too long.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do not want a Chicago Blackhawk jersey in blue. They make the hats already. They make hoodies and t-shirts already
But
in
I think
this
that's more of
color
like just a
scheme.
merchandise Chicago thing. That's not an actual like a souvenir versus an actual on field or on ice or on turf
Yeah.
type of thing.
And the thing is, last season they had two specialty warm-up jerseys and they were those colors.
Yeah, well, to be fair though, to be fair, let's give them time to actually see if they do like what they do there before. Because I'm one of those guys. Yeah, sure. Am I a fan that Fanatics is taking over? No.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just based off of what we know now. That isn't based off of what they could do in the future. But like I say, I'm always going to be a little hesitant to begin with because obviously first comes first. I have to get myself a Minnesota Wild one, just because I have to get one of my team and kind of
Yeah,
break it down and see what it looks like, see what's different and stuff
that's
like that.
where I'm at. I'm going to get a Blackhawks authentic Fanatics jersey. I'm not getting a freaking replica. I can't. I'm not doing that. The way they do the Blackhawks Fanatics are terrible already. I'm not getting a replica Blackhawk jersey.
I will say some teams don't do that bad with the Fanatics. Case in point, the one jersey that I would say is actually really well done was the Caps Reverse Retro 2.0 this year. If anything, I kind of like that because it's the bigger, boxier feel.
Yeah,
Because that was one of the issues with the Caps 2.0 is it was so narrow and like with how they
it
did the
ran small.
stitching. Yeah. And as a bigger guy, well, let's just say that's kind of an issue, especially when you're already
Um,
going towards size 60s as it is.
Ryan, I will say this. At the beginning of the regular season on CHGO, uh, the Mario, Jay, and Greg, they did interview Jamie Faulkner and Danny Warts, and Jamie hinted at the return of the black third jersey.
Ooh, interesting. Now, do you have any made
Um,
in Canada's?
what?
Do you have any made in Canada Adidas jerseys?
The only one I have is actually a specialty warm up jersey from the Blackhawks. It's called from their foundations night, and the logo is made to look like a neon sign.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I just recently picked up my first made in Canada, and I got to say, if you get a chance, I mean, it's so crazy just to see the
Oh, I
difference.
know, I know how they are. I've had one in my hand before. I will say this: probably next season, after the Hawks, after every team's done with Adidas, I will probably have my hands on a Blackhawks on ice Adidas made in Canada jersey.
Yeah, like I say, as a jersey collector, I'm excited for like the end of next season because they're going to be blowing the
Oh
hell out
yeah,
of Adidas jerseys.
that's how it is. That's the way. That's when you buy jerseys up.
Yeah,
Because now look at Reebok jerseys and how expensive they are.
yeah, and like I say, back like even 4 or 5 years ago, they couldn't give them away.
Yep.
Now it's starting to shoot up the ranks.
When um can the Hawks get their own jersey maker? I wish they could, but it won't happen because it's a league wide contract.
Long gone are the days of like what I like to call the pro line era. Because back
Yeah.
in like the '90s in the NFL, literally almost every team had. Granted, it was like 4 or 5 different like jersey manufacturers and like apparel manufacturers, but there were like because the Vikings were always starter for a long time, and now Chicago was like old Nike and
Yep.
Reebok and stuff like that. So it's just like back in the days they used to do stuff like that, but now anymore it's like all just one or the other.
Yeah. In the mid 90s, you saw every like half the league in the NHL use CCM jerseys, half the league use Nike. Then after CCM left, it was half the league used Nike and half the league used starter jerseys. For instance, the Blackhawks use Nike jerseys, which were the superior of the two
Mhm.
between Nike and starter. The Nike jerseys were the superior jersey. Then a pro player took over for half the after Nike dropped out of the contract with the teams that had them. Pro player took over those deals, and then when pro player went bankrupt, all NHL teams made a single league contract with CCM Coho to
Yep.
make the jerseys, and that's led to a league wide contract for jersey
But you
manufacturing.
know what though? As much as I hate to say it though, I can understand why you would. Makes it
Oh
a
yeah,
hell of a lot easier for like the league being like, alrighty, well now now we just have to go through one or like one or two places for the jerseys versus having to be like, okay, is this jersey, league regulated, or is this jersey is this jersey fit within the codes or this or that, or now everything is a level playing field.
Everything is made out of the same material and they are made exactly alike. Hawks jerseys, yes, we all know it. The chain stitching is the only thing different from any NHL team that does their logos, is because the Hawks are truly the only team to make a fully chain stitched logo.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you have the Jets who have their
There.
heritage jersey, which is rumored to become their home jersey next year. It's a little bit more difficult to say, but it's a not a real hand stitched chain stitched logo.
Yeah.
It's
Which is
actually
one
more machine stitched.
which is where, like, when Fanatics takes over in 2024, 2025, I guarantee you, if they don't do that, there is going to be hell to pay, and not just from Blackhawks fans.
Trust me, I guarantee it, that won't change with the Hawks. That was one of the main concerns when Adidas
Mhm.
took over. The thing with the Hawks, it's their history to have their jerseys chain stitched.
Mhm.
They aren't going to drop it.
Oh, thank God. I mean,
They
like,
the Blackhawks pay extra to get their logo hand stitched um by chain stitching.
mhm. And
Oh, thanks for liking the sharp jersey. That thing's actually autographed back there, Dean.
mm, yeah, well, I mean, again, it'll just be interesting to see, because for everything that I've been hearing rumorized too with the Wild, is we could be seeing an example of this potentially being a third.
I personally think that needs to become their home jersey and bring the white one back and make that their road jersey.
I mean, I wouldn't complain too, but the problem with that is, then would Dallas be getting all? But here's the
I
thing.
don't think so.
Yeah, because
I
here's the thing with that too, real quick. Dallas never really, you know, paid any sort of homage to the North Stars. Granted, there was a concept I remember watching on Aesthetics YouTube
Yep.
about a year ago, where they like had like these like scrapped projects, where Dallas was rumored in like 2010 or 2011 to bring back a North Stars themed jersey, but they never did. And then, as far as
Yeah.
I know, it's one of those things where if they really had that big of a hoopla over it, do you think the Wild would have been able to do the reverse retro?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think Dallas would care because it's not the same shade of green. Dallas does not use yellow, and they're the colors are completely different than what Dallas uses currently today.
Yeah, and granted, like I say, it's just yeah. Again, it's one of those things where, for me, I'm kind of conflicted, just because I do really like our new style, and it's like our own history with the Wild.
Mhm.
But I would also love to see them, at the very least, bring something like this back as a third, or like,
Yeah.
more than just a reverse retro one-off thing, or something similar to kind of pay, homage to the entire state of hockey, not just the North Stars or the Wild.
You know what I wanted to see with the Wild in their North Star inspired jerseys?
What's that?
Instead of using the bear logo, their primary logo recolorized into North Star colors, you know the M logo on the shoulder
Yep,
of the home jersey? I
they should.
wanted them to recolorize it to match North Star colors. It would work perfectly on that jersey because the North Star jerseys were an N.
Yeah,
Put M on it, it would work.
because there'd be the Minnesota Wild, or the Minnesota. Anyway, yeah. Regardless of what you want to say there, I would not have mind seeing that too. But again, like, we'll just wait and see, because that could even be a Fanatics thing potentially. Like, because it'll be curious to see what teams rebrand into the new, you know,
Here's the
manufacturer.
thing. The first 2 years of Fanatics, they're not going to allow teams to rebrand or redesign their jerseys. What
Okay.
they're going to do is they're taking the Adidas templates, making it just rebadging it with Fanatics on it for the first 2 years. Then they're going, while in that 2 year period, they're going to be developing new their own materials, their own template, then start rolling those out in the following 2 years afterwards. And that's when we'll start seeing new jerseys coming out. So third jerseys probably for 2 years are not going to be a thing.
Or honestly, what I think they should do is it's like whatever they do for the 23-24 season, they should just roll all of that over. So if you already have an alternate going into next year, you just essentially keep creating it, but make it under the Fanatics. It's just not anything new, like, brand new until they get the development of the Fanatics jerseys. Granted, I know, like I say, Reebok did that, Adidas did that. They kind of went away with their thirds. But for me, I would personally like to just see with whatever they roll with in 23-24, roll into 24-25, and then go from there.
I could see the third jerseys be worn for the first 2 years of Fanatics but in the third year when they start their own template,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to discontinue it for the one season. Here's the reason why I'm thinking it this way is when CCM and Coho were making the jerseys, the Coho jerseys were all the third jerseys. The CCM jerseys were all the white jerseys. Coho made the dark jerseys. CCM made the white jerseys. Well, Reebok actually took over the NHL jersey contract during the lockout of the NHL when no hockey happened.
Mm-hmm.
And what Reebok did, they just rebadged all CCM Coho jerseys for 2 years. And that included third jerseys to be worn in that 2 year period till the Reebok Edge template came out 2 years later. And for a 1 year period, no third jerseys were worn except for the Winter Classic. And then the next year, the third jerseys came out.
Mm-hmm. So
So
yeah,
I think we could see a similar situation like that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I would say too, because why not just basically write out the rest of that era, and then when you start over is when we could go to like different teams and be like, hey, do you want to redesign, do you want to do this, what are you thinking there, try to have
Yeah.
like teams and the brand work together versus here, this is what we're doing, you do it type of thing.
All I fear is a team's going to get their jerseys and they have the wrong logo on it.
Or Jared Spurgino will be our captain, not Jared Spurgeon.
Yeah. It's I have that weird suspicion Fanatics is going to screw up something on the on ice product.
Well, I mean, but that, like I say, though, it's easy for us to flame and do this and do that. It's another thing when you're actually making this stuff, when you're actually the supplier, because remember now, they're the supplier. They're
Oh
the
yeah.
guys. So it's going to be up to them to make it so, like, because if the players on ice are complaining, oh, sweet baby Jesus, we're going to be complaining and moaning about that.
Yeah.
Because if the players and this coaching staff and stuff like that are like, literally, it kind of reminds me of like Nike when they first took over the NBA jerseys in 2017, 2018. I mean, I have a couple of the authentics. Those things are so freaking like ventilated and like holy and stuff like that. No wonder why. Like, if you sneeze wrong, the jersey would start to rip, let alone this normal contact and normal hard fouls.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you want to make sure that because obviously breathability, functionality and stuff like that are a key thing. But at what point do you make it, too thin and too, to the point where again it just becomes more of an issue than it does anything beneficial?
Yeah.
And when you're the guys, when you're literally on the backs of the players on the ice, you want to make sure that that product can, go through wear and tear of a normal game, go through
Mhm.
any sort of issues and injury, like stuff like that. Because at that point, if the jersey rips or tears and stuff like that, then players' safety could be on the line, especially if it's a fight or a brawl or scrap or something. Or let's say, heaven forbid, we have another Evander Kane situation. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that go into stuff like that too that a lot of us don't really understand unless you really dive into it or like are really that hardcore into jerseys and stuff like that. Because not only do they have to make, the stuff breathable, like correct to the team and stuff like that, but they also got to make it to a point where it's strong enough, thick enough, and stretchy enough where it can go through the normal wear and tear of an 82 game season or of even just a 60-minute game,
Yeah.
and that's too where they have to kind of make a little lesser version, I guess, for like the fans, because let's be honest here, unless you're going to the bar strapping up, like with the fight strap and stuff like that, it's a little bit different there. So that's why they can kind of skimp, even though I hate that, especially if you own any of like the Edge jerseys or like the Made in Canada jerseys. You could definitely tell like these were made with quality, these were made to be worn on ice.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
just
have
so
one.
annoying.
I have one sitting right here. This is a Made in Canada Reebok Edge 1.0.
Oh, nice. I have a few 1.0s, and those might be some of my favorite jerseys of all time.
I would say the Reebok Edge 1.0 are my favorite of all time. They reinforced everything with
Mhm.
these. And
The Adidas Made in Canada also have the reinforced fight
yeah,
strap and stuff like that too. I even have a couple of old Coho Authentics. So I have the Columbus Blue Jackets one, but I'm curious about that too. Like some of the older styles and stuff like that. But
well, all the on ice authentic Made in Canada jerseys were made with quality, with reinforcement in all the products. It's no surprise there. Like with the replica versions, like the Indo Edge jersey, they have not the reinforcement. They do make it with like similar quality as
mhm.
this. Fanatics got cheaper from when they made um their jerseys by the claiming theirs are the ones they sell are the actual ones the players wear.
Oh yeah,
And
that's the whole thing with the Adidas lawsuit. Like, because what does the like as a jersey collector too? What does the term authentic mean? Are we talking about like like an authentic licensed product, or are we talking about authentic as in case in point? I could go throw this bad boy on, go out to the field right now, get my bat going, and swing, and it's the exact same thing as like Jose Bautista or freaking Aaron Judge is wearing on the field or
yeah,
stuff like that. Because that was the issue there. It wasn't so much, authentic versus fake versus whatnot. It was what is authentic mean? Does it mean actually what's worn on the field, or does that mean what is what they wear on the ice, or does that just mean a genuine
yeah,
product with bells and whistles?
yeah.
Oh yeah, final patch too.
Dean's saying the patch looks so much better. Yeah, I agree. The older Stanley Cup patches were much better than the new ones that they created last year and were wearing this year. Also, it's placed in the right position, unlike on the with the Golden Knights home and Panthers away jersey because of the stupid jersey ads.
Alrighty, I will say though, kind of jumping into that here, I I don't mind the jersey. Well, for me, well, actually, I could even kind of show you this one sec.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that you aren't that you can't believe they won. Only took 6 years. Yeah, Ryan, I can see where you're saying. I hope about you. Hope Fanatics turns out good. It's just hard to say with Fanatics and
Mm-hmm.
how they do quality control.
Oh yeah, and as a Jersey head too, it's again we can only go off of what we know, but that's just it too. Like it's just like we don't know until we actually see it in hand. We have the product available to us. So who
Mhm.
knows? It could be the best thing they've ever made, or it could be the same steaming pile of slop we're fed to now. But anyway, kind of going back to the Jersey ads here. I will say though, it isn't as bad, at least for me. I was never really one of the. Let me rephrase that. I don't necessarily love that they have the patches, but I'm not one of those who's going to boycott and burn down the NHL because of a freaking 5x5 patch. There's a lot worse things in the NHL world to be yelling about than whether or not a patch is on your jersey. But
I
as
will
long
say
as they
it
don't,
hurts the look of the jersey.
and for me, yeah, I don't really mind it. Because to me, it's no different than just a freaking, anniversary patch or a cut patch or something like that. To me,
Yeah,
granted, I will say though, for others and like, diehard fans and stuff like that, everyone's different. But for me, it's not as big of a deal as everybody's making it out. At least
here's
for now.
some
Granted,
jerseys
that
I
could
have
very
with
easily change.
what?
That could very easily change though if they keep going and going and going. But for now, whatever. It is what it is. You can
Yeah,
still
here's
buy
some
them
jerseys I
regardless.
have with special patches on it that I got done recently.
Mm-hmm.
So a black Coho Authentic with the Blackhawks 75th anniversary patch. I love that patch. It looks like one of the more unique patches ever
Mm-hmm.
made in the NHL.
Oh, nice.
They
So yeah,
made it
but like I
Art
said, for
Deco.
me, that's just what that kind of reminds me of. Nothing more than like a big specialty patch.
And then this old CCM on Ice Authentic Steve Larmer. That's an old All Star game patch they wore in that year.
So,
I personally think like specialty patches like that are much nicer in appearance. They add to the
mm-hmm.
look. The corporate sponsorships, I think they take away from a look. It makes it a cheaper product if you understand where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm. But like I say though, too though, like every team is. Ooh, excuse me. Like I say, I
Yeah.
had supper here a little bit, so I apologize for that. But
Okay.
yeah, but I can understand. Some teams obviously it looks a lot worse than others. Some teams it doesn't make a lot of sense. Others, at least with the Wild, they managed to color it with the team. It's just the ones that you know, like Montreal. Could you have at least made it red? Like if you're gonna make a patch, at least make it fit with the jersey, or better yet, too, like with the. This is what irked me about the Cup final jerseys, the placement of the. Why not? Okay, I'm gonna go on a quick little rant here. Why not put the freaking like the Stanley Cup final patch on the shoulder, kind of like what they do with the World Series patch, or put the freaking advertisement on the shoulder or something like that. Like if you really wanted to do all that stuff, why didn't you just do it that way versus trying to force it over where like, especially for the captains and all captains, it just looked like it was misplaced.
You know what? I wanted. This is what I would have done for the Cup final. I would have just had the two teams remove the ad patches during the Cup final
Mm-hmm.
because in the Winter Classic this year, Boston and Pittsburgh, they did not wear jersey ads on their jerseys.
I know, and I actually have both of them.
Yeah. So they those two teams did not wear jersey ads. Granted, Pittsburgh does not wear their jersey ad on the road. Boston, on the other hand, they do wear their jersey ad on the road and home.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have removed the jersey advertisements for the Stanley Cup final.
Oh, and I agree. Or do like what Vegas did with their reverse retro and put it on the shoulder.
Yeah.
So
I think he's
maybe.
talking about Ryan saying the
Oh.
cup celebration differences.
Well, the thing is too, though, like the price. Like I said, I could keep complaining, going on and on about certain things like that, but like the freaking prices on like tickets and stuff like that to those events. Well, case in point, I remember during the Dallas Stars playoff series against, I think it was Vegas, ironically. It was either the conference final or their series against Seattle, where after the Jamie Benn incident, it would have been Vegas because it was right after the Mark Stone incident. They went down like 2-0 or 3-0.
Yeah.
Tickets for the following like series back in Dallas were like $50. Then they won, and then the next game it was up to $1,100.
I will say this: even going to the NHL draft is even more ridiculous than what you would think. Because I've been trying to buy tickets for the draft since they won the lottery, and tickets are ridiculous.
Are we talking like 500 plus?
No, about $250 a ticket.
Yeah, it's still kind of expensive, but honestly, I would have thought it'd been a lot more compared to how you're saying it.
When I went to the draft in 2017 in Chicago, tickets weren't bad. I paid $75 for my ticket in the 100 level of the United Center. So I got to go to the United Center, go see a draft in person. Now the Hawks had the first overall pick. I do want to travel down to Nashville to be in the building at the same time for Connor Bedard getting his first Blackhawk jersey, but it looks like it's not going to happen.
And to be fair, I wouldn't
the draft is in Nashville.
And like I said, I wouldn't say I blame you either. So at that point, you could save the $250 and actually get yourself a Bedard jersey.
Yeah. Nashville just wants Hawks fans to feed them all their money. Honestly, it would not surprise me.
I wouldn't doubt it either, a little bit of sport or a little bit of rivalry ship there and stuff like that,
Yeah. Hell, Nashville hates it when the Hawks come to town because they know Hawks fans will take over their stadium if they aren't doing their keep the red out BS.
Well, to be fair, though, too, it's like every time Toronto fans travel. I mean, remember that whole Yahoo and what was it, the second round with Florida?
Yep.
So, I mean, it makes sense, but at that point, if you do that, you're just going to make the fans even hungrier and wanting to. And at that point, they're willing to drop the bread. Why not? I mean, you're making probably twice as much money doing that.
Yep.
So
it's something to think about because I have 14 days to decide. Well, technically 13 days to truly decide because if I go to the draft, I'm driving down that day of the draft and coming back home that night because it's a 4-hour drive for me. It's the same distance for me to drive up to Chicago for a game versus. So might as well just do what I usually do when I go to Hawks games.
Yeah.
So
like for me, it's about 3.5 hours up to St. Paul for the Wild, and like 3 hours, about the same for the Vikings and all that stuff too. So
yeah. So I would drive down to Nashville for the draft and come back the same night. Will I be dead ass tired the next day? Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to work out it and trying to go to the draft. It's no guarantee of me going to it, but there's a small chance of me trying to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I say, it's if you have the opportunity to, why not? It's one of those bucket list things, especially if it's your team that's, picking one overall or whatever the case might be.
Picking first overall and for a generational talent.
Mm-hmm. A generational talent that, as long as you don't have a Nail Yakupov situation here, I think you guys will be all right.
I don't think we have a Nail Yakupov situation. Yakupov wasn't ever viewed as a generational talent. He was just viewed as the player that was going to go first overall that year because the draft that year wasn't the greatest. 2012's draft was honestly one of the worst drafts in the recent history of the NHL.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. If the first ever Bedard game is and it's in Chicago,
Good luck
definitely
getting tickets.
I'm going to that game. If the first game Bedard plays is in Chicago, I'm going to that game. I'm already working with my try and re up my season tickets I had last year. So there's a chance if the first game of the regular season is in Chicago, I'll travel up to the United Center for the first game of the year. I went to the final game of the year last year for Jonathan Toews. This time around, if the first game is at home, I will go to the first game of the year for Connor Bedard.
Yeah. But like I say, though, if you don't have a season ticket plan, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Because how
Oh
was
yeah.
it? Like, did you go to the first game of like Kane and or Taves when they first came in the league, or
No, I didn't because I was still living in Florida at the time.
ah?
I was hell at that time. I was only when they came into the league. That would have been 2008, 2007. No, 2007, 2008. Yeah, I would have still been living in Florida, and at that time, it was hard to even watch games on TV.
Mm-hmm. And it'll be for me. It'll be interesting to see going into next season just how the games will be televised, especially with the whole thing with Bally and
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
you guys have Minnesota's Bally Sports.
Mm-hmm.
They might not even exist.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, knock on my back wall here. I'm surprised they're still here now. Like, I mean, I still have the channel. They still play the games and stuff on the television and stuff like that. So, come October, it'll be interesting because it's like, look, as a Wild fan, if I have to, like, my issue is going to be if Bally is no more, who's going to take it over? Because it would be a disservice for those who have cable and stuff like that, not to at least have a channel for like, the metro viewing area being up, where I'm at being Minnesota sports area. So like Twins, Wild, Vikings are always on the TV.
Yeah,
Having that channel for everybody in the viewing area, even if it is just like Minnesota Wild television channel or something, just something. So that way we don't have to, try to jump through hoops or go through illegal streaming services or stuff like that because blackouts suck. Like with ESPN Plus and stuff like that, unless your game is an ESPN Plus exclusive, which if the Blackhawks play the Wild again at home, for the love of God, keep Hextall out of the play-by-play. That was
I
like
think.
I think that was the second game the Wild wore the reverse retros was against the Blackhawks that
Yeah,
night.
that was a brutal game to watch, especially listen to. I actually muted my TV and synced the game up to the Blackhawks radio
I
broadcast.
might have to do that with the Wild broadcast because we have like K-Fan down here where I'm at because one of the radio stations in the area, like they're friends with one of the guys who's up in the cities. So we actually
Yeah.
have like the radio broadcast, but I always like to listen to just to be like, Who? What? Huh? Like, come on. And the thing is, though, it's like, too, when you have literally your, like, color commentators and stuff like that correcting you every other time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, this isn't going to be a Flame Leal Hextall stream here. So yeah,
No.
that's basically all I had to say there.
Oh yeah, I forgot AT&T Sportsnet is having the same situation as Bally.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the local sports broadcasting deals because
Mm-hmm.
luckily NBC Sports Chicago, there's no issue. None of the NBC Sports networks have a problem. The team just, I know the Blackhawks contract with NBC Sports Chicago is coming into their final deal, final season on their contract this coming year. I honestly expect the Hawks to just re-up a contract with them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, the thing is too, like with like all that stuff, it's just like the NHL product is a very good product, but just Bettman finds new ways to shove his own foot up his you know what.
Yeah.
Every which way possible. And it's just like the NHL could be so much more profitable and so much better if you would actually let people watch this stuff or have like streaming services for everyone, and just remove the BS blackouts and stuff like that or whatever the case might be. So I don't know. I could go on a 45-year rant about Bettman and stuff like that, but I could also give him credit where credit's due. He's actually made the NHL far more profitable than I think anyone had ever thought and made it, more mainstream than even like 20, 30 years ago.
Ryan, I see where you're coming from on the Hawks could go to Marquee. I hope not because Marquee Sports Network sucks, and this is coming from a Cub fan.
Yeah.
Marquee is absolute garbage of a network. I call it Ricketts Sports Network because all they do is just want to steal your money, and that's what Marquee does. That's the worst network possible. I would lose my mind if the Hawks went to Marquee and left NBC Sports Chicago.
Yeah. It'll just be interesting to see who all is going to be, the television sponsor and like the television locals and stuff like that, especially for the Bally teams, or if they could somehow find a way to just again remove the sponsor but keep the channels for everybody. Like
Yeah,
instead of Bally, let's say it's New Era
Minnesota,
North or like
Minnesota Sportsnet.
yeah, or something like that, or basically, kind of keep like what they did with the Fox Sports umbrella, like Fox Sports North, or like, this sports North, this sports Chicago, this sports Florida, this sports Sunrise, or just not say, just XYZ here type of
Want to
thing.
know
If they
one
keep
thing
the
that
channel.
Want to know one thing that's weird? With Bally, the Hawks don't use Bally. They play in the United Center. Bally has their main studio for the entire company inside the United Center.
Oh, you want to talk about the ultimate irony there, or
Yeah.
just absolute hilarity there, man.
Yeah,
But,
Bally has a studio inside the United Center that they do do like one of their shows in, and fans before games for the Hawks, we're looking at them like, what the hell are you guys doing here for Bally? Because it's Bally. It's not. They don't broadcast for any of the Chicago sports teams.
which makes no sense to me or whatnot, but hey, it is what it is, I guess. And because you would think there'd be a clash of interest there or something, or just, my turf versus your turf. But
Yeah. Yeah, I realistically
Mhm.
think the Hawks will re-sign with NBC Sports Chicago. It makes most logical sense for the team because NBC being owned by Universal,
So then,
you're having Universal's in a good position financially, and it's like might as well keep with them.
yeah. Now do the White Sox also part of Marquee, or are they NBC?
They're on NBC Sports Chicago.
All right, which is weird that then the Cubs aren't still, like, why they're on Marquee versus, like. So I guess I don't know how that
The
works. Then
Cubs did it because the Cubs did it because they created that network.
okay.
It's
So
their own sports network.
which then I bet makes it very confusing for Chicago sports fans to be like, well, everything else is NBC Sports Chicago, including the White Sox, but not the Cubs.
Yep.
So
And I would say this, the majority of Cub fans can't even watch a game because the marquee is blacked out in most parts of the city.
which is ironic as hell considering you're in Chicago.
Yep. It Marquee is such a garbage network. I don't care. If someone from Marquee is watching this, I don't care. Your sports network is the worst. I'm a Cub fan, and Marquee sucks.
Now I'm guessing the Bears then, well, I suppose the Bears follow the NFL, which is like CBS, NBC, Fox, and all that stuff too, right?
Yeah, they're just normal networks. Yeah, WGN doesn't show any games anymore. I wish WGN had some games. They did. I like some of the old WGN Blackhawk broadcasts from 5 years ago. That seemed like no, it was about 3 years ago was the last time the Hawks had a WGN broadcast, and I did like how WGN did.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I wouldn't mind seeing WGN come back, but I don't think it will happen.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's pretty much seems like not even just with the NHL, but like all the sports in general, NBA, NFL. Well, other than the NFL, I should say, because they do their own thing. But it's like the MLB, NHL, and NBA usually follow the same branches as
Yeah.
far as like the networks and stuff. It's just the NFL has their own rights and their own broadcasts and stuff like that, which it's going to be interesting to see with season ticket being on YouTube TV.
Oh yeah. I forgot Sunday tickets on YouTube now.
Yeah, but it's like as far as I know and as far as I remember, the prices are just. Thankfully, I have cable and I'm in the local market, but they're like $400 for the season.
Ryan, I believe the ESPN deal is a 10-year contract.
Same with Turner, then.
I believe so.
All right,
I
because
prefer the TNT broadcast.
oh yeah, Turner
ESPN.
broadcast blows ESPN's out of the water,
Yeah.
and I'm not just saying that here because I always let the broadcast. It just always seems like it's the Turner broadcasts and stuff like that. Always just seems like more upbeat, more energetic.
Knowledgeable?
What was that?
They're much more knowledgeable about the sport than ESPN is.
Well, the problem is with that, it's like they have four guys on ESPN that know what they're talking about with hockey, and the rest of them are like, it's a stick with a puck and a black thing that goes into the net and
The
score.
first broadcast on ESPN was a Blackhawk game, and holy crap! The first time I heard that broadcaster, I can't remember his name. Well, he called the puck a ball on ESPN.
Oh, and you're just sitting there like,
You flipping moron. That's
yeah,
basically what I said. Ryan, about the Bears going to Arlington Heights. I think the McCaskies McCaskied it up. They
How the heck
screwed
is
her.
McCaskey still alive?
Yeah,
But seriously, how is she still alive?
and she's almost 100.
Yeah, I think she is like 99 or something like that. And it's like, honestly, how do I say this without making it sound morbid? As soon as the McCaskies can get out of the Chicago Bears organization, the better off they're going to be, because it just seems like they're trying to hold on to past tradition too much and stuff like that versus moving forward.
Uh-huh.
Because the Bears actually now have like a realistic future to them. As much
Yep.
as I hate to say it as a Vikings fan here, they actually have a direction. They have some key marketable pieces now. It's just
Jake, all we can agree on, screw the Packers.
amen.
But yeah, Ryan, to add to the Arlington Heights situation, it sounds like they might now move to Wilmette, not Arlington Heights. Wilmette. They screwed up the Arlington Heights situation so badly because of the taxes.
Ooh.
Now the McCaskies are such. The McCaskies are a complete and utter joke.
Now, do you watch
As
any
long
Bears
as they're
games
the
or anything?
owners of the Chicago Bears, I don't see them. I can't see them not screwing something up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, pretty much hit the nail on the head there. Like, because ever since you guys' the Super Bowl run in '06, I mean, it's just, I wouldn't say, pretty much after the heyday of the Ditka and like the '85 Bears and stuff like that, it's been more often than not just mediocrity. Like, I mean, you've always had flashes, but it's never been like sustained over a long period of time.
The
And I
last
don't know.
time the Bears actually were ran well was still when George Hallis owned the team. Then when his daughter took over, the Bears haven't done crap.
Yeah, sounds about right. And like I say, this is coming from a Vikings fan, and I'm just like, because especially now with Jordan Love being the Packers quarterback, and the Lions are actually somewhat on a research. It sounds like the NFC North moving forward here could be a fun division. I mean, the Vikings are getting younger and faster. The Bears actually have some solid foundation
Bears are
pieces.
competent.
Yeah, the Bears are at the very least now trying to get better versus the tanking and getting all the high picks and now pushing forward and all of that.
And now
And
none of us have to lose to freaking Aaron Rodgers anymore.
yeah. But I swear to God, though, if Rodgers, if this pulls a Brett Favre, I might go missing here. Like I'm just, I might
Yeah,
just
future
remote.
starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, Aaron Rodgers.
I would throw up all over my keyboard, bro. Like, not saying that Rodgers isn't a good quarterback or anything, but it's no, just no. I'd
Yeah,
rather go with like our young draft pick from this last year over him. Nick
yeah.
Mullins over him at this point. Like, let's at least try to do something else. Anyway, but yeah, so again, I don't know how much you follow the Bears or anything like that, but
Yeah. Well, guys, the stream has been 2 hours long at this point. I
sorry
need.
about that. I
It's
kind of
all
like
good.
to just jump on stuff, but
No,
yeah,
it's all good,
I
Jake.
got to get going
I
myself here,
appreciated
honestly.
you
So.
hopping in. But I'm going to have to cut the stream here now because I have to do some schoolwork.
Oh, whoops.
And so I'm going to cut off the stream. So make sure to help the channel reach 1,000 subscribers
Let's get
by
Wendy to
draft
1,000 people.
day.
Come on, let's do this here.
We're only let's
This is
see.
coming from a
Last I
wild fan
checked,
too.
last week it was 39 subscribers away, and we are 38 subscribers away from 1,000. Let's try
Nice.
and reach that goal by draft night. And
Well,
thank you
take care, Nick. I got to bounce, so
all
you
right.
have a good one, man.
Take care, Jake. So Thank you for watching the broadcast. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And most of all, let's go Hawks.